we'll talk about like the overview of what the collaborators are doing, so what the challenge has been. Then we'll talk about, we'll touch on the pillars of health. And then, I mean, I think it would be cool for us just to have a conversation about health and how it's impacted Jay's life. You don't necessarily need to tell your testimony now if you don't want to.
There's some hints of testimony.
Yeah, just hints of like how your health has changed, how just knowledge, I guess, has changed your life. I'll talk a little bit about my journey too, and we can just have a conversation, really.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just going to keep it informal and just like a chat. But obviously we're at the end of Health Month, actually, because it's what's the date today? It's the 25th.
Yeah.
So
gone quickly.
Yeah, it's gone very, very quickly. But I think it would be a good time to start talking about what the collaborators have been doing. We probably should have said this at the beginning. Thank you. I'm jumping ahead of myself. So we're on day 25 of November, and I'm sitting with Jeanine, who is the co-founder of Health Exchange, which obviously has been a big part of our campaign so far. And so, Jay, welcome.
Thank you.
It's nice to have you on.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. You've very much been behind the scenes, but really running most of what's been going on. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
it's
been
awesome.
great.
Awesome. It's been quite a journey to this point. I mean, we've made us and the collaborators, we've made some mistakes, they've made some mistakes, but we're all journeying together, so it's great.
Yeah, and we're also doing a lot of it behind the scenes with them.
Yes,
know?
exactly.
So
exactly.
I mean, like, as it was alluded to in Hein's podcast, I'm his personal chef,
exactly.
Right? So I'm the one doing the cooking.
Now we get a look behind the scenes for real.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. But that's what it's been, is that for the month of November, our collaborators have been on like a reset challenge, which has been quite a big thing for a lot of them, because it's been a clean eating program and then a formalized routine exercise training program. And to have to be accountable for all of that, I think is quite significant to report back.
It's not easy.
No, not easy. And I think they've done really, really well. They've had their ups and downs. They've been quite transparent with those ups and downs. Yeah. And it's been an amazing thing to witness, actually.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were talking about it during the week, but it's quite a wide variety of people. From Hein, who, I mean, with you guys are here in the health game, to someone like maybe Anka, who in her first podcast said that health is overrated. I mean, much more on this side of the spectrum, you know? Yeah, how have you found interacting with them? You've done a lot of the almost coaching from a nutrition point of view. How's that been?
Yeah, so we had to give them a nutritional program that was quite generic, which was challenging because, bearing in mind, they're all from different backgrounds at different ages, they have different cultures, and to kind of put together a nutritional plan that's going to bridge all of that and, still be sustainable, but at the same time not make it too easy, but also not make it too difficult. It was actually quite a flexible and lenient program. I mean, for want of a better word, I don't really like the program because it kind of locks you into something.
Yeah.
But we did need to provide structure and some guidelines, really. So, I mean, you alluded to it now, that it's essentially a clean eating program, and that's what it is. It's not a hard, fast diet where you're now doing keto or paleo or, veganism or anything specific like that. It's more just really an introductory into clean eating principles.
Yeah.
So, we gave them quite a comprehensive guide in addition to the program, like what's on the yes list and what's on the no list in terms of clean eating principles. So they could at liberty follow that.
Yeah.
If there were days where their schedule didn't really allow for cooking a specific recipe, but the recipes were there. If they, some people need more structure, basically. So some did follow the recipe plans and the meal plan guidance, but others, the yes, no list was more of it was easier for them. So, I mean, us personally in our household, I mean, Hein, we were more following the yes, no list, but then occasionally we would do the recipe. So when we have chatted to them behind the scenes, that seems to be on the most part, whereas some were kind of following the recipes a little bit more,
Yeah.
in structured ways.
Yeah.
But it's been cool just to get their feedback, to hear like, wow, I think they're just cooking methods and ways of thinking about putting ingredients together that are new and fresh to them that they never thought of.
Yeah.
And they've really embraced it, and a lot of positive feedback that they've really enjoyed the food, which is really cool, because that's what we really wanted. We didn't want people to feel like they're on this like hectic diet. There's just restriction. We wanted it to be a joy. So they're discovering new flavors, new textures, new techniques, and they can enjoy it, and I think it has, on the most part, from what we've heard, has been an enjoyable experience for them. So it's good.
Yeah, it's really good. And I think it's broadened their horizons as to what they can do.
Yeah.
And I think what's amazing for me is that to actually make small changes that are going to change you significantly. Like I just overheard a conversation, and Christu alluded to it, but you spoke to him about the oils and stuff that he uses.
Yeah.
And I mean, could you speak a little bit into that? Just one small change can actually change a lot.
Massive, yeah. So, I mean, on the no list is like refined seed oils, basically. So your sunflower oil, canola oil, soybean oil, and those particular oils are just so prevalent in like all pre-made, commercially prepared kind of meals and sauces and marinades and dressings and stuff, that all the convenience foods, basically. So that is a massive thing to change. It's a small thing. It's actually a very easy swap, because there are very readily available healthy oil alternatives. But by taking that out of your body, I mean, it's just amazing, because they're highly, highly inflammatory on a cellular level. So like basically the main fat that's in those refined seed oils is linoleic acid, which is essentially omega 6 fatty acid. And what your body knows to do with omega-6 fatty acids is to make cell membranes. So if you are eating that, your body's going to say, oh, okay, here's my building blocks for cell membranes. And it literally, so if you eat like a packet of slop chips or whatever that's like drenched in oil, your cells are literally built out of that rancid toxic oil.
Wow.
So, and it can take up to 7 years for it to be worked out of your body. So if I decide today I'm not going to be eating the stuff anymore, only in 7 years' time will your whole body be renewed, and your membranes will be new and fresh if you've replaced it with good oils. So it's a very serious matter, and it is the cause of a lot of systemic kind of symptoms, pain, inflammation, and it's really the breeding ground for disease. So that's massive. And it's so easy. You can just ditch the margarine, ditch the sunflower oil, all of that. The crux is you're going to have to come to terms, in terms of a clean eating lifestyle, you have to come to terms that you're going to have to do away with convenience and invest a bit more time and effort into making things. So you can't just go buy your salad dressing now, you need to make it. So it's a 5-minute investment. Instead of just grabbing it out the fridge and it's a 20-second process pouring it on, now it's going to take you 5 minutes. But what's 5 minutes in terms of your long-term health? It's such an investment. So that is a massive, massive thing. I mean, that in tandem with sugar, I actually don't even, a lot of health professionals will say sugar is the biggest thing to cut out, and I do agree. But, there's a lot that also say in tandem with the fats, So those two things, you change that, you can really change the trajectory of your health journey, and it's massive. And it's just a matter of buying olive oil, buying coconut oil, buying avo oil, macadamia oil. It's stuff that's readily available. It's a little bit more pricey than commercially mass-produced refined seed oils, but it's an easy swap, really. Massive. So they were not allowed any of that this month. So it's cool, and it's great that they get the opportunity to prove to themselves that they can prepare food without those ingredients, which is great.
Yeah, and that's what Luke and Esther were actually saying in one of our previous episodes, is the biggest thing that they've learned from this time is to be prepared. And I think that's so cool. And even Jess and I have done, and I'm just going to be honest with this too, over the last, I'd say, 2 months, Jess and I used to go to Woolies like often, and it just was convenient with the way that life was. It was just busy, and we were going to Woolworths every day, and we cut Woolies and started just making whatever we had for dinner. We made an extra bucky for lunch, and I tell you, if I say I saved like over 1,000 rand in a month on just Woolies.
Yeah.
Like that on another, I mean, just in tandem with what you're saying is, although the avo oils and the coconut oils are quite a bit more expensive, if you cut those convenience foods, you can actually save a bit of money there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a massive thing because, I mean, that's the biggest excuse that most people have about adopting a healthy lifestyle. There is this perception that is expensive. And it can be if you start including all these luxury imported superfoods and stuff, but you don't have to. It can be as simple as just making things from scratch from simple, wholesome, whole food ingredients that are fresh, you know, and it saves a lot of money. I mean, we made that switch many years ago. I mean, it saved our grocery bill in a huge way, you know, getting rid of all the pre-made stuff and just making stuff from scratch. It really, really does save a lot of money. So, I mean, the real investment is just a bit of extra time, but we enjoy it. We do it together, you know, and it becomes part of our family routine and time to have conversation and or listen to, you know, messages or whatever. It's just cooking time is a part of our enjoyable family time, and I don't see it as a chore. Obviously, when we're really busy, I have to be prepared for that, and that's, I mean, then I'll like bulk meal prep or whatever, and like you say, you cook double or whatever and then freeze. Then we're ready for those kind of occasions. So when we are pressed for time, but on the most part, we try and just, you know, cook big volumes, eat it for the next day, or freeze the leftovers, and you can. It's manageable. I mean, we can do it. It took a while for us too. We also transitioned from a conventional way of living to this way of living, and it's doable. It's not. It's just really, like you say, about being prepared.
Yeah. And I mean, from my own experiences, I really find it worth it. So it's really been worth it.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's really great.
Good to hear.
Yeah. Let me ask you you've been, coaching the nutrition side of we've got a nutrition group, and we send out photos every day, you know, of like what we're eating and the challenges that the collaborators have been having, etc. How have you found that engagement with them? Have you had any conversations that they've said like, wow, this thing's really changed my life? Or how is I guess a good question is, how has the conversation from the beginning of the month changed now at the end of the month, that they're asking different questions and, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't in the original briefing when you guys gave them the program. And then when I saw them come out, they were like big eyes, lots of concern. Then the questions started coming at me, you know, like they kept me quite busy between all of them, you know, questions and a little bit of panic. And
But let me just stop. Do you know what Pastor Malusi said to me in the briefing? He stopped me and he was like, Caitlin, can I ask you a spiritual question? So of course, I'm like, now this is my pastor speaking to me. So I'm like, yes, Pastor Malusi, of course. And he said, do you not think that God can make better ice cream than Woolworths in heaven? I tell you, it caught me so off guard.
Oh, sure, I'll get him a recipe.
Exactly.
I mean, that's like a thing for me. I've like always enjoyed food. I've enjoyed yummy stuff. I mean, I grew up with my mom, who was just always making all sorts of like delicious, decadent things, and she used to call me her little lackerback, you know. And so for me, like entering into a healthy lifestyle, I didn't want to be deprived. You know, I wanted to enjoy my favorite foods. And so I became very like resourceful, if I can put it that way, of figuring out how to make my favorite foods healthy. And there are ways. I mean, there's a whole like recipe hacking movement out there, which I discovered, which was like a game changer for me. Just it is about making your favorite kind of foods at home with better ingredients. And so instead of going out to a restaurant and having fish and chips, how can you make it at home, you know, in a way that is nourishing and it doesn't have the damaging seed oils and all of that, so you can still from time to time enjoy those things without feeling deprived. So like that was a big game changer for me. Sorry, I kind of changed the topic a bit, but it's like that was huge for me. So but I mean, back to the collaborators, like we didn't just put them on like plain salad, tiny portions, you know, they were like big hearty meals. They obviously had to adjust it according to their family sizes and everything. So that's something they had to figure out themselves, because, you know, some of them were just single or twos or fours, you know, but the food is really nourishing as well. So, you know, so when they really just got into trying the recipes and tasting it, I mean, I had such positive feedback. I literally had no negative feedback on the recipes, which was wonderful. And we also personally enjoyed them. I mean, honestly, for us, they actually like a bit of a cheat a lot of the
said the
time
same.
for us, you
Yeah.
know. And also, we don't necessarily eat 3 meals a day. I know Christy also said that he found it was maybe like too much food. So, but you can, I mean, I personally eat a lot of food. I'm not living off celery sticks like Google says. You know, like, no, I don't want to live like that. That's not a life, you know, like living off celery stick and hummus for every single meal. No, that's not what health is. And you have to like paint a picture of the truth of it. You know, you can approach it and be like crazy and restrictive, but it's not sustainable. You know, we really wanted to make the program enjoyable and just show people that, you know, you can do this and it is delicious and it's nourishing, and you don't have to eat so much because it is nourishing. Instead of eating like something that's just full of empty calories, which like leads your blood sugar to spike and then crash, and then an hour later you're desperate for a snack again. So when I started eating like this, and a lot of them have also said that they don't feel the need to snack anymore because the food is enough. It's nourishing. So yeah, it's been really good to see that they've embraced it and enjoying it.
That's awesome, yeah. And I really think that they've said so already, but I think that there's some things that they've gleaned, maybe not everything, but they definitely have some things that they've gleaned from this month that they're going to take forward, you know, whether that is how much better they're feeling drinking water or actually how much better they're feeling without sugar, which is what Christu said. I think this is going to become more of a lifestyle, which is so encouraging because that is a permanent change, or at least as much as permanent as possible change, you know, which is wonderful.
At least there's an awareness now,
yes.
You know, because if you don't know what you don't know, and I mean, I used to be like such a chocoholic, right? Even early days of our marriage, we would eat literally a slab of chocolate between the two of us, like every night.
Yeah.
You spoke about your after dinner sweet tooth, and I chuckled when I saw that because that was us. You know, people see us now living quite a disciplined life, and I don't do that anymore. But I didn't realize. Look, put it this way, I knew that it wasn't necessarily good for me, but I didn't realize how damaging it was to me.
Okay.
So those, and then only when like sort of symptoms and things started cropping up and we started getting down to the root cause of what was going on in my body, we could relate it back to these indulgences that we were taking. I mean, we pretty much ate quite well by most people's standards. I'd say 80% well through most of our marriage, even before I got married. But there was an area of compromise where, you know, convenience foods did come in because of time factors. We used to run a business that was very demanding. And then you would go buy the convenience foods and all of that. And, you know, you'd have a long day and there was nothing nicer than just after dinner sitting on the couch and eating a chocolate every night. But that's the problem. It became an every night habit, you know. And that really does just start impacting your health, and just really a lack of knowledge about what that's doing to your body on a cellular level in the long term, in the short term and the long term. So unfortunately, most people only wake up when disease comes knocking at their door, and that was my story too, you know. I caught a big wake-up call, and I was like, no, I mean, doctors couldn't give answers for things, and I wouldn't stop there. You know, I didn't accept that. I fortunately did have some insight into the medical through people I knew who'd done med school and stuff, that they don't study nutrition pretty much at all. So I started to understand the responses from doctors when you would probe them on these things and they couldn't give you answers because they literally can't give you answers. Yeah, so I was really not getting answers from doctors as to what was wrong. There were some clear diagnoses, but they were never telling me what the root cause of the problem was. They only could diagnose and administer pharmaceuticals or surgery, which didn't make sense to me. So because I did have some insights about how med school is structured, you know, I knew it's just because they simply just don't get taught to kind of give patients that kind of information. And there's no like judgment or criticism of them, but it's just how it is. So I had to start doing a lot of research on my own, and then along that journey, I came across alternative health practitioners, like, you know, leading health advocates, whether it's on social media or just other means of research, and just eventually finding that, wow, there are actually root causes of these things, and you can really literally turn your health around by just nutritional changes and exercise and a lot of the other pillars that form health. It's not just about nutrition and exercise. I had to approach my health very holistically and tackle all of it simultaneously. And then, it's been remarkable how I was to how I am now. And it's not a quick fix, but it's been a beautiful journey of discovery. And I hope that I can impart that and share that with people. That's kind of the heart behind Health Exchange, just to encourage and mentor people, to be an inspiration to people that this is doable, it is possible, there are answers, there are alternative ways of doing things, and it all just boils down to just going back to basics, going back to the natural ways that God's created us to function. Our bodies were never designed to handle chemicals and highly processed ingredients. I saw such a cool post yesterday on Instagram where just like really made sense to me. They said like 90 years ago, 90% of the ingredients on the grocery shelves never existed, or products they never existed.
Wow.
And now the disease statistics are 90% worse.
Sure.
And then also along the lines of that, we're like, there's 90% more disease and obesity than there was then.
Wow.
Just 90 years ago, if you look at the stats. It's and they had a photo of like a typical grocery store, and you just see ultra processed ingredients everywhere. And that's what most people live off. And our bodies were never designed to live off chemicals.
Wow.
It's just not. And that's what's promoting disease. So
Sure.
I had to get rid of all of that. And that's really the foundation of a clean eating plan. So to get back to the program, it was like, we had the yes/no list to give them clear guidelines as to what you can and can't do.
Yes.
But we also had to, just give a bit of structure in terms of like a meal plan.
Yes.
So there were meals for the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. And
Great.
also, if you were training, there were like shakes, like protein shakes that you could have, so that you could just
recover better.
Recover better. So high protein shakes and that. So those are all optional and entirely dependent on your level of activity. But because all the collaborators were had taken on the Slipstream, personalized training program, we did encourage them to do that. So it was quite structured, but a lot of flexibility, so that people could just do what was right for their particular age, their particular body composition, their level of activity, and it was just really a framework and not highly regimented at all. Just a lot of freedom to do. Like, you can easily prepare something that's in with the ingredients you have in the fridge without having to go and buy everything. But if you wanted to experiment and, try the recipes, you could do that as well.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of the meals, because they've spoken about some of them on social media. But I know there was, like, Christy posts a lot about the very good crumble.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of those recipes and what makes them up, and delicious, really.
Yeah. The Berry Good Crumble is essentially like a baked oatmeal, like almost like a solid granola kind of thing, but it's like there's baked blueberries in it, so it's all nice and gooey and chewy, slightly sweet, and then you could pair it with whatever you wanted to. So like we gave serving suggestions of like eat it with Greek yogurt, and like when we personally made it, I ate it with fresh blueberries on top of the baked blueberries, just to give it like a bit of a fresh burst. And and it was interesting seeing the photos of everyone's versions of the recipes, because they all just like look totally different. There
was a lot of expectation versus reality there too.
You start realizing the beautiful styled photo in the book, it takes a level of artistry to get it to look like that. So that recipe was quite a winner, I'd say. And then the banana banana curry.
Oh, yes, that was a huge one.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird idea to have banana in curry, but
Yes.
I mean, that's actually a concept that was introduced to me through family friends years ago,
Really?
to add banana to curry, and we used to make it with beef, not chicken. The recipe has got it's a chicken version,
Yes.
but it's such a nice combination, and they were also they were a bit like apprehensive of the concept, but they were also pleasantly surprised by the combination of textures and flavors and just that little bit of sweetness. And it's, you know, the banana is nourishing, and it also, because now you're including it with healthy fats and proteins, it also dampens or like reduces the blood sugar spike that you get from eating banana. Because if you had to just eat banana straight up on an empty stomach, it's going to give you a big glycemic response, whereas if you're eating it part of a nourishing high fat, high protein meal, it's nice and balanced and healthy. So they enjoyed that, and that was one that was repeated quite regularly.
Quite a lot. I said I saw as well that the chicken bake was also a big one, and the granola, the honey crunch granola.
Oh,
we made that. It was delicious. Very, very good.
Like I said, this is like almost cheating for us, because I would not normally eat that now. I mean, that would be like a real treat thing, you know, but we wanted them to feel that, like, yes,
they can enjoy
their meal. I mean, I would certainly not encourage people to have honey crunch granola every single day for breakfast, you know. No, I mean, it's like 1,000 times better than Fruit Loops, but it's still going to have a glycemic effect. So you just have to just enjoy it with moderation, and you have it with like a high fat yogurt. It's great. And I mean, even the recommendation of the recipes, you have 2 tablespoons. You don't have like a bowl of granola, you know. So it's also learning portion control. It was quite clear, you know. I think the recipes about like how much you should eat of it as well.
And I think timing around the training too, because if I speak into their training program side, I mean, Slipstream put together with Matt as the coach the personalized training program for each of them. Which was so cool for me because it was different for all of them, you know. Like Luke wanted some running and some riding, which he ended up doing mostly riding. Essie as well did riding with Luke, where Pastor Malusi was just getting back into running. So he just had kind of runs he did runs and strength training. So he was running and strength training every day. And it was so interesting to hear from them, including running as well, but just interesting to hear from them how the nutrition affected how they felt training and how the consistent training affected them. You know, I think it's the same as having an eating program, is when you're accountable to it, that's really what makes the difference to sticking to it. You know, when you wake up in the morning and you see I've got to run on my program, to say, no, I'm not going to, that run's going to be over your head the whole day, you know, until you get to the evening and okay, fine, I'll run, because you want to have that little green tick, you know, which I think has been an amazing change for them.
And also
out of the ordinary.
Understanding, like, you know, how you feel on a run. If you've got a really heavy meal in your stomach from the previous night and then you're trying to run, I mean, Nkuli did discuss that, you know. It makes a massive difference. And it's not to say that this program is necessarily geared towards athletes either, but it's just because it's so clean and nutritious, they're not getting inflammation from eating this food because there's no inflammatory oils, you know.
And they could add things as to their I don't know, their energy requirement, really.
So, I mean, just that one thing of not having inflammation from your food will make a massive difference to your training. So, that, and just, controlling your portions the night before. Like, I mean, Hein and I tend to eat our main meal at lunch. So, that when we go to bed, we've got a very small meal in our stomach. So, dinner's literally a light snack. So then also we'll wake up, go early to conditioning, and then we also still feel very light, you know, so it's easy to condition. And then, you know, you replenish with all your energy at lunchtime again. And then, so that works out really well. And also when you get older, you know, your metabolism changes. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I could eat any man under the table. Literally, I had a really fast metabolism. I could eat a lot of food and never pick up weight. You know, most girls they hate you for that. I was like that. But when you start edging up over 35, then things change, you know. And then we started gaining weight slowly, and then we realized, no, some stuff has changed. So then just changing that.
Yeah.
So I could still enjoy all the foods I was enjoying. I mean, they were healthy still, but still big, nourishing portions, but just shifting my timing around, because like we came from a typical South African household, well, Hein and me, and you typically would like eat a really big dinner, vleis, rice and aardappels, and it's just not the best way to eat. So just even just tweaks to your cultural ways, can really make a big difference in your health. Not necessarily overhauling everything, but just changing portions, timings, that kind of thing made a massive difference.
Yeah. Well, Jay, I think it's a journey, and I'm grateful to hear part of your journey, because we have spoken to Hein quite a bit. But it's going to be more coming from you, and we want to hear more from you, because it is in the journey that you learn so much. And I must say, I'm grateful myself that I have people that have walked further along a journey than me that I can learn from you, And so thank you for being on today, and we're going to continue. So
it's been wonderful. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.